The Texans are in the playoffs for the third time under DeMeco Ryans. And they should be, more than they've ever been before, very ready for the game against the Steelers on Monday. I'll tell you why. We'll take a look at the Astros' newest arm, Kevin Durant's vengeance last night, and a little bit more. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says podcast on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. Hit it!
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
You got grow up, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oi!
Oi! Oi! Oi!
Ziggy-zag, ziggy-zag, We are live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, Twitch at Gallant Says, Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, Instagram at Sports Gallant, TikTok at Gallant Says, X/Twitter at Gallant Says Pod. So, this is the third time going to be the charm for the DeMeco Ryans era, for the Houston Texans to get all the way to that ever-elusive AFC Championship game. If there's ever a time for it to happen, it does feel like this is the year, and I say that from this perspective. The Texans are one of the most experienced teams in the AFC in the playoffs. This is new for Bo Nix in Denver. This is new for Drake May and the New England Patriots. The Jacksonville Jaguars have done this before with Trevor Lawrence under center once. Pretty respectable out that they had against Kansas City after that win that they had over the Chargers, where I think the Chargers choked it away. You've got the Chargers, who have been to the playoffs before, but not that often, with no dubs under their belt. Sure, Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin and some of the Steelers have made it to the playoffs before, but this is a very old Pittsburgh team that the Texans are going to take on Monday. When you look at the AFC playoffs, the team that really has experience is the Buffalo Bills, and the Texans match up very well with Buffalo. It's their third time in the playoffs under DeMeco Ryans. They have played games on the road before in tough environments. 2023-2024 season, they play at Baltimore. Obviously, things don't go their way. Last year, they play at Kansas City. Pittsburgh is just as tough. They're ready for this. Are they going to be able to take care of business? We shall see, but no excuses. They are arguably the most battle-tested team in the AFC, given that this is their third straight year in the playoffs. And that, while Buffalo's been there a lot, this is really a team that's just Josh Allen. While Pittsburgh's been there a lot, that's a team that's ancient. You should feel pretty good about the Texans' chances relative to the other teams in the AFC. Does that mean they're going to go all the way? I don't know. Offense. Ugh. Especially in the red zone. Can't really run the football. Offensive line. CJ Stroud. Sometimes he seems to get this offense. Other times he doesn't. But I'm looking at it from this perspective. They have got experience on a level in these playoffs that they haven't had before. And I don't know if that should have you confident, but it should have you feeling like they're ready. How do the Texans feel about that? Let's take a look at what some of them had to say over the last couple of days. DeMeco Ryans, head coach of the Houston Texans, at his press conference yesterday was asked about being ready now that they've been in the playoffs a couple of times for this matchup coming up next Monday.
I think when you have the experience that our group has, we have a lot of guys who've been there. A lot of guys know what to expect. So it's not our first rodeo for a lot of guys. So I would lean in on that experience from our guys, just having conversations right on the side. Nothing formal that we need, but just guys just talking, as we're in walking and passing, guys just letting each other know like what it's gonna be like. You know, the intensity is gonna pick up, right? You know, the importance of every single play is gonna pick up, and as long as our guys are sharing that information to each other and everybody's just prepping the right way and how we go out and practice the right way, like, hey, we know it's win or go home. Everything is on the line. Everybody understands that. And for me, when you get in these games, you don't start trying to do something that you haven't done before. Right? You just lean in on what you've been training for from training camp. And you lean in on that and you do that the right way, that puts you in position to win the game.
We shall see. But DeMeco's saying all the right things there. They should be more prepared than they've been in years past. CJ Stroud also talked about if the Texans are ready for this go-round in the playoffs, starting off on the road. This time around, it'll be their third road playoff game. They are 0-2 on the road in the playoffs thus far. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chiefs as well last year. And the refs, in the eyes of some. Here is CJ Stroud talking about what DeMeco just talked about.
Experience do you feel?
Yeah, I feel great. I think I was telling Evan Washburn out there, just, the experience that we do have from, me having a little more experience to our defense, our offense, our special teams, our coaches, our front office, everybody, we know what it takes to, win these games. And, I mean, that's just a really, really solid execution plan and executing the little things because, everybody thinks you go to the playoffs, you got to do all the extraordinary stuff. But it's really the ordinary, the team that does the ordinary stuff better than the other team wins. And so I think, for me, I got to just take completions, take care of the ball. And I think when we look at the end of the game, whenever we play, we'll see our result and, see what happens there.
We'll see how that goes. You can hear CJ talking there, and you can kind of hear the conflict talking about playing within the offense, but that's been at times an issue for him. Sometimes he's locked in on the death by 1,000 cuts mentality that he's not necessarily poo-pooed earlier this year, but seemed like he's not the biggest fan of. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. Against the Cardinals, money, but it's also a Cardinals team. How's it going to look against a Pittsburgh team that has big names defensively, that has good pass rushers, but in the secondary a little bit older and giving up a lot of chunk plays to Baltimore Sunday night? We'll see. I've been waiting for the offense to put together a couple of games in a row where the rhythm is there. They're actually not shooting themselves in the foot. They can make touchdowns happen in the red zone. We have yet to see it. More from the Texans over the last couple of days. I always love how DeMeco Ryans treats the Texans defense like an older sibling and the offense like it's the younger sibling. Maybe some excuses made for the younger one. Yesterday at DeMeco's press conference, he was asked about the Texans defense. And look, to his point that you're about to hear, they do need to clean some things up. And Sunday against the Colts was not a very good operation. But more DeMeco Ryans talking about the defense and being a little disappointed in him.
Our defense, they did a really nice job throughout the entire year of limiting points. Specifically, that's what makes you a good defense. Also, playing well in the passing game. But we didn't end the year well defensively. When it comes to giving up explosive plays, is really not good enough defensively. So we got to do a much better job if we want to advance and play longer in the playoffs. We got to play much better defense. So it didn't end how it should have.
The way he talks about the defense compared to the way that he talks about the offense here, I just get a kick out of it. Here's DeMeco Ryans after the Texans win on Sunday, just a couple of minutes after the game, being asked about the Texans offense, some of the struggles they had, especially while the starters were in.
Particular, in the first half.
Yeah, I thought how many points did we have? Yeah, we had over 30 points. Again, I thought our offense did enough to get us down, score points. Just shout out to Imai. We can't be where we are right now without Imai and what he's been capable of doing. All right, to hit 6 field goals today, tied for his career high, tied for most field goals in NFL history in a season.
At first, then he just drifts into talking about Kaimi Fairbairn. And Fairbairn deserves a lot of credit, but yeah, Fairbairn's the reason they scored a lot of those 30 points. 6 field goals, that's 18 points. And then the 2 extra points on the touchdowns. They need more out of the offense. More thoughts after what we've heard from the Texans the last couple of days, with the Texans turning their attention towards Pittsburgh Monday on the road. Is the Texans offense making progress? CJ Stroud was asked about that on Sunday, if it accomplished what it needed to in the Texans win over the Colts 38-30. Here is Texans quarterback CJ Stroud.
There was a couple of those, in every aspect. And I think at the end of the day, we overcame it, and that's a good thing. But we got to get those things fixed, if we want to go win in the playoffs. And, I'm aware of that, and I think our coaches are, and I know everybody is here. So we're going to get those things fixed. And, but at the end of the day, it's all about finishing and getting wins. And I think the way we ended this game is a testament to how our season's kind of gone. A lot of up and down, but I think if you just stay faithful, you stay, and it's, like I told y'all before, it's easy to have faith when it's easy, but when it gets a little hard, who has the real faith? And the work that we've put in, I think, we trust in one another, to get the job done.
Well, yeah, you got the end, and I'm not going to act seriously like Davis Mills is the reason the Texans won on Sunday, but hey, how did the Texans finish? Well, you weren't on the field. Yes, there were some limitations for the Texans offense early on. No Nico Collins just to start the game off. But the ugly things that happened early on, where you got the accidental red zone touchdown again. You're supposed to hand it to Tommy Togiai, and Stroud's got to take it in because of some miscommunications. You've got a illegal man downfield penalty. I feel like we see so many of those, and illegal formations and illegal shifts and all that. Got to clean it up. You can get away with some of the mistakes you've been making all year against Pittsburgh, but on the road, maybe that magnifies whatever mistake you make. More from CJ Stroud talking about the Texans offense. Here he is talking about the swarm mentality. Texans swarm.
It's football time in Houston, and we're ready to play.
And how it applies to the Texans.
I think, when we don't get in our own way, even though every game, somehow, some way, that's going to happen, and on both sides of the ball. But I think when you look at how we're built, roster to coaches to, scheme, we're built tough. And I think, you look at, and here you got swarm and, relentless. And I think, that's, what we try to embody every game. And I think we've finally bought into it. And I think as an offense, swarming looks different than defense swarm or special team swarm. I think we found that groove. And, I'm just excited, man. I'm really, motivated to, get going this next week. But I'm going to enjoy this win, enjoy this regular season, and, get back to work tonight. And I'm excited to, go in the playoffs and, try to make some noise.
Offensive swarm is different than defensive swarm. Yeah, no shit. We see that every single week. Sounds like Stroud is still slowly buying into what this offense is under Nick Caley. To his credit, he has not been resistant to it. But if things do not go so well in the playoffs, we're going to have some tough questions to ask. More from the Houston Texans the last couple of days as they turn their attention ahead to Pittsburgh. Here is DeMeco Ryans yesterday talking about the Texans' ability to win on the road. The head coach of your Houston Texans, after a 5-3 record on the road in the 2025, now 2026 season.
When you're in the playoffs, to me, it's, you always would love to be in front of your home crowd, right? That's why they call it home field advantage, right? When your home crowd can be rowdy and loud on, those significant plays, third down, red zone, you can have that crowd noise really cranking and really disrupting the flow of the opponent's communication. That's important when you're at home. Right? We don't have the luxury of having that this year. But you go on the road in the playoffs, what's different? Hey, it's you against everybody else in their stadium. And we went on the road this year. I feel like our guys have handled ourselves. Our team has handled themselves pretty well on the road this year. Understanding that, again, it goes back to us being in the moment, executing, playing together. We won't have that crowd support, but that's okay. You still have to find a way to figure it out, find a way to win football games, and we've done that on the road. And with big challenge on Monday night versus the Steelers, and we're excited about it, versus a really tough crowd who we know they're going to be loud, and it's going to be a really great environment, cool environment for our guys who haven't seen that before. It's going to be a really great environment for them to witness.
Texans are going to have to score early in this game. You got to get the Steelers crowd out of it. You can't have him getting all riled up to the tune of renegade like they can at times. You got to make things happen early. And it does feel like if there is anything that could give a Texans offense trouble, given their many, many Plaxico Burruses to their feet, talking about shooting yourself in the feet, folks, at a strip club while wearing sweatpants. Given the many moments that they have like that, you have to get started early. I think if this game remains close, the Steelers are going to get more and more confident, specifically Aaron Rodgers. You got to get started early in this game. Will they? I don't know. But look, they've been there and done that in the playoffs. They have played in two extremely hostile environments on the road. This should not be uncharted territory for them. Some final words from the Houston Texans the last couple of days after their win against the Colts as they turn their attention ahead to Pittsburgh. Here is DeMeco Ryans being asked about the Texans' ability to finish games. They have said that word so many times at press conferences over the course of the year. Here's the head coach of the Houston Texans on Sunday.
As I told our guys after the game, we've been in all sorts of games, you name it. And what I'm most proud of is our guys find a way to finish, no matter if it's like it was today, in that fashion where you need a drive at the end, a 2-minute, you need to close it out. Hey, we can go do that. We're not shying away from any of those moments. That's the game of football. And you're never just going to line up and just blow everybody out. That's not realistic, but you got to persevere. No matter how it looks, you keep persevering, you keep making winning plays throughout the game, and you'll end up on top.
So there you go. As far as Black Monday yesterday, I don't think it gave the Texans the help that they are looking for this offseason. Say they were to make a change offensively. I know a lot of fans have been pushing the idea of the Texans adding Mike McDaniel. Say he gets fired by the Dolphins. He's sticking around. The Dolphins did show some scrap towards the end of the year, and I do think that Tua Tagovailoa is probably the biggest problem there. He was asked if he wanted a fresh start. He said he wanted a fresh start at a podium. We'll talk about that tomorrow. You've also got Kevin Stefanski but here's the thing, guys. Kevin Stefanski's taking a head coaching gig. Kevin Stefanski's a 2-time coach of the year. There's no way he takes an offensive coordinator gig. Someone's giving him a job. There are not a lot of great coaches out there, and I mean, if you're an NFL team, do you want to go the route of somebody that's completely new as an offensive mind, or do you want to say to yourself, yeah, Kevin Stefanski was in a shit situation. Cleveland is where everything goes to die. We're going to take him in, and things are going to be a whole lot better for him here. Everyone wants to do that. Who actually gets Stefanski? Great question. I don't know. But it's about him as a head coach. He's probably head coach target number one for all the teams who are looking for that next head coach. And that's the Raiders, it's the Giants, it's the Cardinals, it's some of the other teams are eluding me right now, but the Browns are not going to hire him again. They should. Maybe they'll hire Condoleezza Rice this time. The teams that let go of their head coaches, he is target number one. No doubt about it. Unless there's somebody that is sick of the college football experience and wants to get the fuck out and jump to the NFL. You know? Anyway, the Jets still have their head coach, Dark Smooth. They still have their head coach. Head coach is fired. How am I forgetting all the ones that are fired? I guess I'm so focused on the playoffs. See my little playoff beard right now? Oh, my playoff beard. We're going to grow a playoff beard until the Texans are out. Raheem Morris got canned in Atlanta. I guess the Titans are going to interview him. Titans would interview him. Titans are interviewing Matt Nagy, Steve Spagnuolo, Lou Anarumo, Vance Joseph. So the Titans are one of the other teams that are looking for a gig. There's the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Titans, the Browns, and the Falcons. So there you go. All right. Football time in Houston, baby. Football time in Houston.
It's football time in Houston, and we're ready to play.
You know, it's been a while. Let's talk a little Astros baseball. Something big happened yesterday. Let's play a little song.
Why did they argue the umpire's call? Why did the fielders crash into walls? Why do you think the pitch is so slow? Why do you think they go for broke? Who says it's only a game? Why do the catchers wear iron masks? Why do they dive for the dive on the grass? Why do they go head first into home? Why do the losers feel all alone? Who says it's only a game? When you wanted to give it all you got, the war's not over till the final shot. It's pride and glory and fame. Who says it's only a game? Why do you think they call them spikes? Why do you think they call them strikes? Why do they give it more than they've got? Why do they always reach for the top? Who says it's only a game?
Astros baseball. Who says it's only a game? The Houston Astros have a new pitcher, Tatsuya Imai. They signed to a 3-year deal up to $63 million to sign him away from Japan. He played for the Cebu Lions over there. Last year, he was 10-5 with a 1.92 ERA. He is a 3-time All-Star in Japan's professional league, the Nippon Baseball League. I think that's what it's called. He's 27 years old. He is the first player the Astros have ever signed direct from Japan and is likely to be part of a 6-man rotation that's going to feature some combo of Hunter Brown as your ace, Mike Burrows, who you traded for, Christian Javier, Spencer Arrighetti, Lance McCullers, and Ryan Weiss, who they also signed this offseason. I am making no predictions about how he fares in the majors. There is a lot of upside, but he's coming over from Japan. Some people believe that he would be a good number 3 or 4 on a great team. We'll see. I don't know a fucking thing about him. I don't think anyone knows a thing about him outside of the scouts that are out there. And even then, to see how a guy pitches in Japan versus how a guy pitches in the majors, completely different things. I do like the cut of his jib, though. He was at the Texans game on Sunday. Anyone see this? Look at him. This guy's fucking awesome. Love this dude. Throwing the H's up. Hell yeah, man. He also said some interesting things about the Dodgers, who are the team that most Japanese players are looking at when it comes to jumping over to the United States. He said this in November on a Japanese TV show. Quote, "Of course, I'd enjoy playing alongside Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki, but winning against a team like that and becoming a world champion would be the most valuable thing in my life." He said this to former Major League pitcher Daisuke Matsuzaka. "If anything, I'd rather take them down." Shout out to Daisuke Matsuzaka. I saw one of his first starts in Boston. He was a fun pitcher. He's bold. He also said in a November interview, "In a way, I want to experience that sense of survival. When I come face to face with cultural differences, I want to see how I can overcome them on my own. That's part of what I'm excited about." More boldness from the newest Astros pitcher, Tatsuya Imai. "I don't have any history here in Major League Baseball. I almost feel like I have nothing to lose. I just need to go out there and take it on as a challenge. I feel like my style of pitching, being aggressive, attacking hitters, and going after these guys is my best trait. I definitely want to keep that, and I look forward to showing the fans here in Houston my style of pitching." Very intrigued by it. He's an adventurous guy. He had lamb chops for the first time this weekend. I feel like if you're in Houston, someone should be giving this man brisket, but he had lamb chops. Lamb chops have a smell to them if you've ever had them before. It doesn't seem like it's going to be as tasty as they are, but lamb chops are great. They just smell a little bit different. A little bit of a pungent smell to cooked lamb chops, but they are good. More on this guy's mentality, at least per Astros manager Joe Espada, who's of course biased. He believes that Imai clearly has the word champion on his mind because he says that word a lot. So you saw him throwing up the H at the Texans game while sitting in a suite with Scott Boras and Jim Crane. You've also got him going courtside last night at the Rockets game. In case you didn't see this, here he is. I mean, he's gotten the full H-Town welcome. Roll 35, which is a great number. Pedro Martinez's number. I know that's not why he's wearing it. And he also opened up yesterday's press conference with this prepared statement that he, I think, wrote on his phone. Shout out to him. Not a lot of pitchers. Check that. One of my frustrations with baseball is there's a lot of players who don't even try to speak English. It would be nice if you tried a little bit more. Maybe it allows you to shield yourself from the media. But shout out to Tatsuya Imai for opening up his press conference like this.
Hey, what's up, Sean? I'm Tatsuya Imai. I'm ready to chase a world championship. Let's go, Houston. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah. Dude. See what he does, though. My biggest takeaway from the Astros signing a Japanese pitcher for the first time is more about Jim Crane than it's about whether or not this guy's going to be a contributor this season and in the 3 years he's under contract here in Houston. Because it seems like Jim Crane is following a trend. And if you listen to Crane at his press conference yesterday, you 100% could make the argument that Jim Crane's last visit to Japan has made him come back in the same way that if you've got a friend who's ever been to Japan, or maybe you've been to Japan, you come back and you take it on as a personality, at least for a little bit. Maybe you come back with some katanas, some swords. Maybe you come back with a kimono. Maybe all of a sudden you start binge watching the television show Shogun or Tokyo Vice. Tokyo Vice is awesome. 90s show where there's a journalist covering the Yakuza. I love it. Ken Watanabe's been it. Maybe you start watching The Last Samurai, which is a little bit more of a stretch when it comes to like an authentic Japan experience. But Jim Crane's come back from Japan as I've made Japan my entire personality guy. And now he is following a trend. He said that his most recent trip to Japan, quote, woke my eyes up. We weren't as focused as we should have been. We had some people going in and out of there, but I knew we weren't getting the job done, recognizing talent and getting in front of it. I think you can really see in the Asian market, the players coming out of there are really equivalent or better than some of the guys we have here. It was kind of untapped, I think, until we had the Shohei Ohtani effect. And I think a lot of people focused on it. We'll be laser focused moving forward. And we went all in. I have no problem with Jim Crane following a trend. I also like that even if he's not willing to go over the luxury tax threshold, that he is willing to spend money. I just hope that Crane making a move, signing this Japanese pitcher to a 3-year, $63 million deal, Tatsuya Imai, I guess technically it's worth up to $63 million. My hope is that this isn't a reactionary move by Jim Crane. Reactionary. That's been Jim Crane in the past. Sometimes it's worked. Astros weren't happy that they didn't get anybody at the trade deadline in 2017. Waiver trade deadline, they go get Justin Verlander. Other examples of being reactionary. Trading for Carlos Correa at the trade deadline. He loves making the splash moves happen. This is going to excite some Astros fans who thought that they were going to sign a guy to a pitcher after trading for a pitcher. I mean, they have really been aggressive when it comes to addressing their rotation this offseason, which is going to lose Framber Valdez. Awesome. That's great. But is this reactionary or calculated? Crane has often been reactionary. And signing a guy from Japan for the sake of signing a guy from Japan, is that perhaps what's happening here? Did Jim Crane say, get someone from Japan, Dana? Talking to Dana Brown, who is in a lame duck year. If you're in a lame duck year, what are you going to do? Probably everything your boss tells you to do. Crane could have done things like this earlier. He even admitted in yesterday's press conference that he's had an office in Japan for 40 years. He admitted, as you heard a little bit ago, that the Dodgers have led the way for renewed attention in Japan. Okay, so now you're focusing on Japan. Are you too late? I do think there is a little calculation to Jim Crane and the Astros here. First off, their partnership with Daikin, at least in the eyes of Jim Crane, should help them open doors that maybe were a little bit more difficult to open before. Daikin is a Japanese-based company. They have staff in Tokyo, in South Korea, in Taiwan, or Chinese Taipei, whatever the fuck we're supposed to call it. But why hasn't this happened until now? That's all I'm asking. Is it because all of a sudden this offseason Jim Crane went, Japan is my entire personality guy? And I'm, of course, exaggerating a bit, just like I exaggerate when I call Jim Crane Jock Jim Crane. He puts on the varsity jacket. He's talking with Reggie Jackson. He's talking with Jeff Bagwell. Hey, I pitched at a really high level back in college. Now you got Japan Jim Crane, who's coming home from Japan with a katana, a kimono, and a Japanese pitcher who maybe will be good someday, but you got to be a little bit skeptical about it. Yusei Kikuchi's experience here apparently helped the Astros out. That's at least the way Scott Boras frames it. Boras said Kikuchi had a great experience here. Kikuchi was one of the first people to congratulate Tatsuya Imai for the contract that he signed with Houston, who had just 2 Japanese players before Yusei Kikuchi, Kaz Matsui, Noria Aoki. These are guys who have been playing in the major leagues for a couple of years. But I think that Japan Jim Crane is now a new character that we're going to use. We're not going to be culturally insensitive with it, but I think this is the start of the Astros looking at Asia as a market that they can perhaps take advantage of, but I think it's going to be a lot different than the Astros taking advantage of the Caribbean in the way that they had with Jeff Luhnow running the show. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. It's obviously going to be a little more expensive. This isn't the guy you get to bring in and gradually ramp up. No, this is a guy who's coming straight over. And look, that's probably, as far as leagues in the world, the best baseball league after Major League Baseball. But are guys going to come over here and immediately succeed? Time will tell. But I would expect the Astros to bring more players in from Asia in the near future, especially if Jim Crane's trying to say it's a comma. Not a comma. That's Rick Smith. If the window is always open. I'm always good with an owner that spends, even if he's hesitant about crossing the luxury tax threshold. I just would like to see the Astros be smart. And I feel like Jim Crane here is being a little bit more reactionary than calculated. We'll see, though. Hopefully, this guy blows all our socks off. And if you want to defend the Astros a little bit, it's not like the Astros are the only team that's taking a look at Japan specifically after what the Dodgers have done and are getting aggressive. Good God, the Toronto Blue Jays. When the fuck did they get all this money? I thought the Canadian economy was in the shambles. Here is a post that the Blue Jays made yesterday. They signed 6-time Japanese League All-Star Kazuma Okamoto to a 4-year contract, and they announced the move with Japanese characters, the Japan flag, and a fire emoji. And, I mean, they're taking a look at Japan as an untapped market. Seems like they're also just trying to be the Dodgers. So you always take what Bob Nightingale reports with a grain of salt, baseball writer for the USA Today. But per Nightingale, the Blue Jays are hoping to make Kazuma Okamoto a super utility player. They want to bring back Bo Bichette. They want to sign Alex Bregman away from Boston. And Kyle Tucker, who is also a free agent, is a possibility. Wouldn't that be crazy if the Blue Jays had George Springer and Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman? I don't know if that's going to happen, but we shall see. Anyway, big fan of this guy. Says all the right things, Tatsuya Imai, but I am hoping that Jim Crane has not made Japan his entire personality. And I do get the sense he's being more reactionary than calculated and ahead of the curve here in the way that Jeff Luhnow was back in the day. Joe from the H on TikTok says, they're reporting all the Latin American players. Got to get them from a different country. Breaking my heart. Those are our boys. Well, I don't know. I feel like if you're a baseball player, exceptions are going to be made for you. And these organizations, which have all this money, are going to do their due diligence to make sure that these players get the best legal representation possible. And also, I think they all have, they're legally here, I would assume, if you're pitching or hitting for a Major League Baseball team, Anyway, it is the Gallant Says podcast. We are live on YouTube, on Instagram, on X, on the TikTok, on Facebook, and on Twitch. Kian Malik talking about the Texans Steelers game coming up. I think that Pittsburgh priest is the thing we got to be most scared of. Yeah, he blessed the field. That's true. Jason Horox doesn't think the Bills are going to get past the Jags. Jay Newbert 94 says, I'm a Pats fan, but the Jaguars scare me the most. The Jaguars do look good. I got respect for the Jaguars in ways that maybe some Texans fans don't. H-Town asks, is CJ ready? I don't know. I don't know if he's ready, but the Texans offense should be ready. Leo GJR H Sport posts cow emoji, football emoji, coffee emoji. Indeed. This is how we speak. 2026. The Houston Rockets won a basketball game last night, 100-97 over the Phoenix Suns. Ugly start. Took them really long time to get a lead. Ugly closeout, too. God, this offense at times is a brutal watch. Without a point guard, and they're not going to have Fred VanVleet the rest of the year, that confirmed by Ime Udoka. That's how the Rockets are at the very least operating. Before last night's game, there are times where this offense just looks very college basketball, where you've got guys missing layups underneath the basket. Amen Thompson had one of those in the last minute. You have guys forcing layups, and it feels like they're coming up too strong. Tari Eason had one of those down the stretch. And in a game where things are not looking so good, that's where you turn to Kevin Durant. But Kevin Durant, that was a rough night for Kevin Durant until the very end. At one point last night, he was 1 for 11 from outside. He missed 10 straight three-point shots, pulling a 2018 Rockets Warriors, if you will. But he was able to hit the final shot at the end of the game. After the game, he was asked if it meant anything more to hit your game-winning shot against your old team.
Most definitely, you know what I'm saying? A place that I didn't want to leave, and my first time being, to sound, I don't want to sound too dramatic, but I will, to be kicked out of a place, you know what I'm saying? And felt like that, you know, I've been scapegoated, you know what I'm saying, for the issues we had as a team last year. Yeah, it felt good to beat them and hit a game-winning shot, but that's all it is. It's not just for the moment, you know. It's something tomorrow I won't even think about, you know. So it was a fun game. Like I said, of course, yeah, I felt you play with a little chip on your shoulder against your former team, especially when they trade you.
Durant saying that he was scapegoated for the Suns last year. I think most people across basketball look at the Suns as a fucking disaster. But then again, there's a lot of people that just don't like Kevin Durant. And when he doesn't look like he's fully engaged on a bad basketball team, they're going to say, oh, he just wants to go to a winner because he only wants to play for a winner. As if that's a bad thing, by the way. I think that Durant has been unfairly portrayed in some of the places that he has played before. I do think as far as his overall likability, he made a mistake leaving the Thunder for the Warriors after that epic series between those two teams. He joins the team that he couldn't beat. He was never going to get the kind of credit that he deserved for being one of the best basketball players of the last 20 years. You could argue he's like second to LeBron probably. So he has partially created the perception issue that he currently deals with. There's no denying that. But there definitely were some people that probably pointed at what was going on in Phoenix and saying, well, Durant should have made things better. But I think if we learned anything about Durant, Durant does not magically create a culture upon joining a team. He obviously adds a lot from the scoring side of things, but does he change the way a team acts overnight? He grows up with the Thunder. That Thunder team got used to winning early. They made that early finals when they still had James Harden and they had Russell Westbrook. Then he goes from that to the Warriors. He's always been a part of winning cultures, and then they're trying to make it happen in Brooklyn, but you got the Kyrie Irving mess, and you got James Harden coming in, and I don't know if Harden's doing that really either. And then he tries things out in Phoenix, and on paper it looks like it could work with Devin Booker, but not happening there. It's not Durant's fault that things did not work out in Phoenix. Again, that's one of the worst organizations in basketball just because of who their owner is. So I can understand why he believes that he was made a scapegoat for Phoenix's issues. I really don't think, though, that many people outside of Phoenix look at him that way. But it was good for him to get that game-winning shot last night. Leo asks a question, are the Rockets making the playoffs? Yeah, easily. They're making the playoffs. How far they go in the playoffs is the real question. Greg Todd says trade for Trae Young. Ew, fuck that. No. Don't trade for that guy. That flop merchant. That guy's the epitome of everything that's wrong with basketball. Hate the way he plays. I hate how he flops. Seems like a bad teammate. Ugh. Disgusting. No Jalen Green for the Suns last night. We did see Dylan Brooks in a Suns uniform. Dylan's having a great season for Phoenix, and I miss Dylan Brooks. I miss having Dylan Brooks on the Rockets. Biggest issue in last night's game, I know hey, you probably got some issues with the Rockets offense and they're slow starting and all of that. But my big issue is, how is there no backup plan for a broken clock in the NBA? How do you have no plan to fix that? All three scoreboards had blacked out clocks for much of last night's Rockets win. The game stopped 7 times, and Houston's non-basketball employees had to fix the issue. It was finally fixed midway through the third quarter. How do you not have a backup plan for a clock, though? It feels like this happens a lot in basketball, and this is the sport where the clock matters the most. You got a shot clock, and you've got the actual game clock itself. But the shot clock's the most important thing here. If you don't see the shot clock, how the hell can you efficiently run an offense? Shout out to a fan of the program, Jonathan Sanford, the PA guy for the Rockets, who was giving score time and shot clock updates throughout last night's game. He deserves a lot of credit because the NBA is a professional basketball league. You've got to have a better solution for when the clock fucks up than what the Rockets and what the NBA was dealing with last night. It did not feel like you were playing in a professional basketball league last night. It really didn't. You gotta have a better fix, a quicker fix, a backup plan. Every team across the NBA. Maybe the Rockets had a backup plan and it didn't work, but you gotta have a plan for when these clocks go out because it seems like this is a regular occurrence. Joe from the H says the NBA needs to bring Flavor Flav to every game for a backup clock. Yeah, boy! He says that, right? I don't really know much about Flavor Flav other than that there was a television show called Rock of Love. Politics. They're fucking stupid. Yes, they're politics. The left and right suck. They are politics. It's time for a little politics talk, guys. Time for a little politics talk. Anyone see this statement yesterday? It's really funny to see how a politician handles their inevitable exile. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, released this statement yesterday. Oh, God, it's a long statement. What was it, a 4-part notes app? Dog. Fraud happened on your watch. Anarchy happened on your watch in the wake of George Floyd being killed. Somehow you were nominated as vice president when perhaps there were some fibs on your resume and you seemed rather unlikable and you hadn't really done anything successful. Seems like he worked against the left just as much as Kamala Harris speaking worked against the left as they, at the last minute, acknowledged, at least privately, that Joe Biden was a vegetable who they had isolated from everybody. There was an article written about that recently. How many paragraphs in this statement where he announces he's not running for re-election? Let's read it. Let's count them. I don't know if I want to read this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And a lot of this statement, he talks about Republicans smearing entire communities and running a fraudulent game at the expense of Minnesota, calling a YouTuber a right-wing conspiracy theorist. Dog, fraud happened on your watch. Why can't these people just acknowledge that they fucked up without pointing the finger across the aisle? Why? Is that so hard? I don't get this at all. But he's out. He ain't running for re-election. wanted to talk about a couple of local pieces done because Houston has a pretty substantial Venezuelan population. When did we start writing articles based on the views of one person, or worse, when did we start writing articles based off of social media replies? Because that is a trend that we have seen a lot of coming from news outlets that some consider to be reputable. I'm going to give establishment media a little bit of credit. You might not trust them, but at least they came up with interesting angles to talk about what happened to Maduro over the weekend, the United States capturing him, imprisoning him, and all the things that they said after the fact about how we're going to run the country and this is low-key to high-key about the oil. I'm going to give the establishment media credit because they came up with angles and asked multiple people about what went down. The Houston Chronicle asked Texas leaders about Trump's action. Just about all of them fell in line with Trump. No surprise there. Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, Ken Paxton, among others. Channel 2 did a lot of work. They had 3 different pieces online with video packages too. They asked Venezuelans how they feel. They asked experts about what could happen next. They asked Houston-based oil companies about how they feel about this, what could change for them. Hell, they even asked attorneys if they have any advice for Venezuelans awaiting asylum. Channel 11 interviewed a guy who'd spent years in a Venezuelan prison. Fox 26 interviewed the family of someone who was killed by a Venezuelan national who fled to his home country years ago and still lives free over there. There were some great pieces written with different angles. And then you've got the Cron. And this is just typical for media in 2026. Houston expert explains what the Venezuela takeover really means. Will historians look back at the U.S. strike in Venezuela as a gesture of power or desperation? This is written by Ahmed Humble, the senior trending reporter for The Cron. Go through this article, and it's all based off of an interview with one academic, Dr. Luis Duno Gottberg, the Lee Hage Jamail professor, I butchered the pronunciation there, I'm sure, of Latin American Studies at Rice University. I'm sure his perspective is valuable. And he brings up a lot of interesting elements along the way, talking about how an intervention, taking out the leader of a country, could have destabilizing consequences. But he said a lot of the same things that I said yesterday. I'm definitely not an expert. Why are you writing an article then based off of the expert opinion of one academic? Just one. I think it's lazy, to be perfectly honest. And I will call out laziness as somebody who is working on the side for Sports Radio 610, but would like to have a full-time gig, whether it's talking about sports or talking about local news. When did we lower the bar to the point where you can write an article and it is based off of an interview with one person who no one has ever heard of? No offense to this professor, who I'm sure is great. But the article is entirely based off of his opinion? No, you need to get a bunch of different opinions. It can't be just one guy. Sure, he's got takes, but there isn't somebody else. Couldn't get a professor from the University of Houston. You couldn't get a actual expert on American-Venezuelan relations. Yeah, lots of things could theoretically happen, but this looks like an article that's written by somebody who was asked to write an article about how Venezuelans are feeling about it and about how the Venezuelans / Latin Americans living in the United States view what's just went down. And we talked about that on yesterday's show if you want to get my takes on that. I hate that we've lowered the bar. We write articles about fucking social media replies now, and now we're writing an article based off of the opinion of one academic. Let's raise the standard here if we're going to write an article about that. Joe from the H says social media news race. Everyone wants to get a story up before Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. Sure, but you shouldn't. And I don't see how this article is useful in any way. I don't get it. Joe from the H also says, Grizzy's Hood News if you're in Houston. Yeah, that's kind of what's been going down recently, right? I think I actually did an interview with her once. She was great. I think now KPRC is bringing her in to the fold on a semi-full-time basis. Like, things have changed. But can we not change things so much to the point where we are writing an article entirely based off of the opinion of one academic? I don't know. Raise our standards. Anyway, that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. We do this thing daily, 7 in the morning on YouTube, live at Paul Gallant. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. On Twitch, give me a follow, but I'd appreciate a sub at Gallant Says. On X at Gallant Says Pod. Give me a follow on both. On Instagram at Sports Gallant, we post clips of the show there. Also on TikTok at Gallant Says. You can also catch it on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. It's available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe, rate, and review the Gallant Says podcast. 5 stars, please. Until tomorrow at 7 in the morning. So long, farewell.
Farewell and adieu to you, fair
That's the wrong
Spanish
one.
ladies.
Nope, that's it.
Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain.
And have yourselves a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.